You thought the worst had passed. The winds had calmed. The skies, briefly, began to clear. People stepped outside for the first time, trying to breathe in relief. But then, without warning, everything changed again. Typhoon Wipha, after ripping through southern China with terrifying winds and unrelenting rain, left behind something far more dangerous: bursting reservoirs, collapsing dams, and a flood no one could stop. This wasn't just a storm. It was the beginning of a catastrophe no one saw coming. In the provinces of Guangdong and Guangxi, rivers swelled to their limits. Dams that had once protected towns now became their downfall. Emergency sirens echoed through the valleys. Evacuate immediately, they warned. For many, it was already too late. From satellite images, you could see the dam gates opening one by one. It was a last-ditch effort to stop structural collapse. But what poured out wasn't safety, it was a wall of destruction. Water thundered down the mountains, swallowing roads, flattening fields, and sending families fleeing for their lives. What were once bustling streets turned back into rivers. Places that had only just dried after the typhoon were now under several feet of brown, debris-filled water again. In farming towns, people abandoned their tractors and animals mid-field. Parents carried children through knee-deep water, praying they'd make it to high ground in time. On July 21st, Typhoon Wipha made landfall. With wind speeds over 115 miles per hour, it tore through southern China like a buzzsaw, shredding rooftops, knocking down trees like matchsticks, and slamming cities with sheets of blinding rain. Entire neighborhoods were crushed in hours. In Zhuai-Maoying and Yangjiang, windows shattered as if from explosions. Scaffolding collapsed. Traffic lights disappeared beneath rising waters. And people, thousands of them, scrambled to find each other in the chaos. By sunrise on July 22nd, the landscape was unrecognizable. And just as hope began to rise with the daylight, it was washed away again, this time by something even more relentless: the flood. In Guangdong City, the earth gave way beneath the roads. Asphalt twisted, buckled, and vanished. Massive sinkholes opened where intersections once were. Flash floods roared through towns like Guan, swallowing scooters, carts, and market stalls. To the south, cities like Zhouying were transformed into drowned worlds. Sidewalks vanished. Stop signs disappeared under muddy currents. And then, the unthinkable, caught on security camera, a family home on the river's edge simply crumbled. The ground beneath it eroded in seconds. The house fell in, torn to pieces, gone forever. From the mountains to the sea, there was no escape. Roads turned to rivers. Schools became shelters. And cities blurred into lakes. The boundary between what was land and what was water was gone. Families trudged through waist-deep water, clutching bags of clothes, old photo albums, and terrified pets. In village after village, elders were carried on doors converted into rafts. Babies were wrapped in plastic to stay dry as parents pushed them through flooded fields. No one had time to pack. No one had time to plan. There was only the instinct to run, to survive. Shelters filled in hours. People sat shoulder to shoulder on damp floors. Electricity failed. Clean water ran out. In some towns, the only source of light came from candles on rooftops, lit to signal for rescue. In the stillness, the only sounds were the creaking of submerged buildings and the eerie slap of water against cracked walls. The storm had passed, but the nightmare was only just beginning. This wasn't just a flood. It was a collapse of daily life, a sudden unraveling of everything familiar, and it left behind a humanitarian crisis that continues to unfold. In just 3 days, over 5.7 million lives were touched by the disaster. Over 7,600 homes were obliterated, reduced to rubble, or buried in landslides. Entire districts were disconnected from the outside world as highways crumbled and bridges disappeared beneath the flood. And while the numbers sound staggering, they don't show you the pain. The mother searching for her son, the grandfather lost in the currents, the child crying in a crowded shelter unsure where their home has gone. Rescue teams surged into action, navigating chest-deep water with inflatable boats and homemade rafts. In Guangdong and Guangxi, responders shouted names across rooftops, pulling the stranded to safety. Drones captured haunting images, rooftops peeking above a brown sea, men waving red shirts from balconies, trying to catch the attention of a passing boat. In mountain villages like Pingan, volunteers scaled crumbling hills to bring supplies to survivors buried under landslide debris. The roads were gone, but the effort never stopped. Doctors treated wounds by flashlight. Neighbors shared what little food they had. Bottled water, instant noodles, and blankets became symbols of hope. In shelters, people wept, not just for their losses, but for the kindness of strangers who stayed to help. In moments like these, the true spirit of humanity rises. Amid the chaos, there were heroes, young and old, who refused to let their community drown alone. Even now, days later, the skies haven't cleared. The rain still falls. Rivers are still dangerously high. The dams, though no longer bursting, are brimming again. And the fear remains. What happens if it rains again tomorrow? How long before the water finally recedes? How do you rebuild when there's nothing left to stand on? For millions, those questions remain unanswered. This isn't just a disaster report. This is a story of fragility, how quickly nature can remind us we're not in control. How dams we built to protect us can betray us when pushed too far. How a single storm can ripple through generations. Typhoon Wipha didn't just bring wind and rain, it tore families apart. It erased homes, hopes, and histories in a matter of hours. And even now, as global headlines move on, the people here are still trapped in the middle of it's oh don't look away. These stories deserve to be told. Not just the images of destruction, but the faces of those who endured it. The volunteers who stayed. The children who still smile. The survivors who now face the daunting task of starting again. We'll keep following this story, bringing you updates from the ground, from the shelters, from the rivers that refuse to sleep. Because this isn't over, not yet. If you care, if you want to witness courage in the face of catastrophe, stay with us. Subscribe, share this video, and help the world remember what happened here. Because disasters like these don't end when the rain stops. They end when healing begins.